When I first thought about running for the state House of Representatives, I was 25 years old, and every older woman that I met with for advice counseled me that I had to do something about my hair. There has been so much pressure on me through my whole career. My curls have been a part of who I am at the most basic level for my entire life.
This is Priya Anand, and we are Spiraling. In this show, we talk to people about curly hair to learn more about who they are and about our culture, from our personal identity to how the world sees us. For the last 20 years, if you've ever seen a photo of members of Congress and spotted blonde curls, it could only be one person, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She was first sworn into the House in 2005, representing South Florida's 25th Congressional District, and she's also a former chair of the Democratic National Committee. Now she says she has two colleagues who are also curly, but for much of her career, it's basically been just her. And we all know that appearances matter in politics, and that becomes even more fraught for women. Michelle Obama was quoted in 2022 saying she strategically chose her hairstyles during her husband's presidency. And she said, "Let me keep my hair straight. Let's get healthcare passed." She's writing a whole book about this called The Look, and posted on Instagram in June that during her time in the White House, everything about her appearance, and especially her hair, was constantly dissected. Even curly men have dealt with this, actually. Remember when Rand Paul ran for president in 2015? It feels like a whole lifetime ago at this point. BuzzFeed ran a listicle referencing all the jokes people made on the internet about his hair during a debate. 3 of them really stuck out to me. My dad on Rand Paul. "Oh, he'll never win. He's got curly hair." Another tweet. "Also hate Rand Paul's hair. I don't have any, but if I did, I'd make less curly decisions with it." A third tweet. "That's funny how they let Rand Paul go on the entire Republican debate without telling him someone dumped a pack of ramen noodles on his head." Somehow we'll get back to ramen noodles again later in this episode. I can't believe I'm saying that. And now with Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, we'll unpack why her hair has always been such a big deal to everyone, including her. This is the most in-depth interview she's ever done about what it's like to be a curly-haired woman in politics.
One of my lifelong subjects.
Curly hair?
Yes.
Honestly, same. Takes one to know one, right? We're all part of the same little tribe.
In elevators, on the street.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about curls, I want to make sure mine look nice.
Who in your family has curly hair?
Who doesn't have curly hair? In my family is the better question. Both my parents have curly hair. My grandmother had curly hair. Both my grandmothers actually had curly hair. So there was kind of no other option for me. And all 3 of my kids have curly hair. And my husband has stick straight hair. So they got none of his hair. He is very bald, so...
So I guess they won that one and you won that one too.
I remember my mom also had trials and tribulations with her hair. You know, she was a teenager in the early 60s. She was only 20 years older than me. So she had like all the 60s hairstyles she would add the hairpiece, and she definitely blow dried her hair straight and didn't really wear her hair curly until I was in maybe junior high school. That's when I think she's just kind of said, you know what, I'm just going to embrace it and we're going to keep going. When you have curly hair, people are just always offering unsolicited advice, right?
Yes.
There's no one that just accepts that your hair is curly and that you might like it. And so one person, I guess there were people that suggested, you know what, in the years of permanence, when you would get a permanent, someone told her that her curls would be more manageable if she got a permanent.
Just a little sidebar here. I had never heard anyone call a perm a permanent before, but that is the full term for when you get your hair chemically curled. Perms are super popular across Asia, and they've had a recent resurgence in the U.S. among young men thanks to K-pop. And we'll talk about all that in a future episode. And if you're a man with a perm, please reach out. My email will be in the credits at the end.
My mom and I had nearly identical hair. I cannot imagine, I can imagine what my hair would look like if I did that, because my mother did it, and it was a huge mistake because it did not make her curls more manageable. It made them tight and frizzy.
Yeah, I've never thought of getting a perm to curly hair, what that does, because I feel like nobody does that.
No, and she shouldn't have done it either. And just the pressure on women back then in particular.
I mean, today too, no?
No, today too, but there's more, there's more freedom of personal expression. And women also, I mean, the product market that exists today that helped me eventually be able to tame my curls and embrace them and be able to not be at the whim of the weather all the time. And, like whatever happened. And then for my girls also to be able to make choices back and forth to this day. My two daughters, sometimes they wear their hair curly, sometimes they'll flat iron it, but they both feel very free to wear their hair curly. And it's because they have product that helps them manage it.
How did you feel about your hair when you were a teen and a kid?
It was a little torturous to be teased. I was teased in general, so I had a lot of teasing, probably mostly because I was an easy mark. I reacted to it. And, that's the number one rule, is that you should ignore teasing because they get bored when you don't react. But I was quite good at giving them the reaction they wanted. They would call my hair a bird's nest. And unfortunately, every girl with curly hair has had some gross bug fly in your hair and get stuck there. Went to college in South Florida, and we have flying palmetto bugs. They're basically flying roaches. And I walked through an archway in college and got dive bombed by a palmetto bug.
Oh my God.
The blood curdling scream that came from my body, it would have straightened your hair, and then I'm trying to get it out. And so, there was actually some truth to having a nest of curls, but I had so much strength instilled in me by my parents. I would go home and they would make me feel better, and they would encourage me to just embrace who I am and, to ignore the teasing, because they, just reinforced all the qualities, the good qualities that they saw in me. And so all the way through, I really cannot pinpoint a time. I've never had my hair straightened, chemically straightened. One time as an adult, when keratin came out, my hairdresser, who's still my hairdresser today, he suggested that keratin would maybe allow me to control my curl and you can see my curls, your curls are very loose and mine are really tight. Sometimes they get a little bit looser. I live in South Florida and it's very humid here. So I did it, and he did it very lightly. And even he agreed. He said it had never happened before. He said, this doesn't work. We'll let it grow out. You should never do it again. And right, because it was kind of this in-between curl and straight, and no, it didn't work. Over the years, what has been amazing to me, especially ethnically as a Jewish woman.
Yeah.
When I go and I speak to national Jewish organizations, and plenty of times to organizations like Hillel or B'nai B'rith or any of the younger women's organizations, I've had girls pull me aside and thank me, blew me away when a girl pulled me aside, and this has happened multiple times, thanked me for wearing my hair curly publicly and to not succumbing to straightening and flat ironing, because it gave them permission to embrace their curl and to embrace their ethnic, naturally curly hair. And even if I had ever thought about straightening or doing anything to my hair, I would never, ever, ever change my hair now. Just it means something to people.
If you're walking down the hall and they get a glimpse, everyone knows who it is. And I identify with that so much, and I'm sure other curly women do too. My parents used to always tell me that they would identify me on stage at dance shows from the sea of other little Indian girls by my hair. It was like, that one's ours.
There has been so much pressure on me through my whole career. Pressure over hair. It's not the most consequential issue, but how you look, and especially growing up and being teased about it certainly matters. But when I first thought about running for the State House of Representatives, I was 25 years old, and every older woman that I met with for advice counseled me that I had to do something about my hair. I did the best I could. So they would say, you're going to have to get a haircut, and you've got to just have more manageable hair, a more professional look. And honestly, that's the only time I did actually take advice like that. And it was really more a matter of I was so young and I looked younger, and I was running for the Florida House of Representatives, and I had all my opponents were older than me. Most of them were men. So I agreed a more professional look was the right way to go. But I did that within embracing my curls. So I just got a different hairstyle that was a little bit more manageable instead of, sort of the out of control fro. And it was actually easier for me to get ready in the morning, and my headshot definitely looked nicer. And so I had to project the image that I was ready to be a decision maker on behalf of 107,000 people. And so that pulling that look together was important, but within the boundaries that I had for myself.
So this idea comes up all the time that curly hair is for some reason not professional. And
I know.
Who knows where it even came from, like what the origin was, right? And I almost wonder if it's like, do you feel it's a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit that people don't see that many women with curly hair out there in politics, in government, in business, in society generally, because women are told straighten your hair to be an adult?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even my own girls. Both of my girls were in sororities in college. And one of my daughters was in a Jewish sorority. And so like all of those girls, nearly all of those girls flat ironed their hair. When they went out to a party or did something nice or went to some kind of professional presentation, they would flat iron their hair. And I would say to them, and I still do say to them, you look beautiful with your hair curly. It's who you are. Yeah, and it's so much easier. Why are you even bothering? What happens, Priya, is you look at yourself in the mirror. It's the same as when I didn't wear makeup in high school. And then I learned my girlfriends when I was a senior. I remember we were out to a Chi-Chi's restaurant where we always used to go on Friday nights. And they said, Debbie, you should try some makeup. So I really didn't want to go through the hassle of putting on makeup, but they showed me how to use eyeliner. So I use eyeliner and I liked it and it looked nice. So, then you look tired to yourself and you don't like your look as much without makeup. So then it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm always wearing makeup pretty much from now on. I saw with the way my girls evolved, once they started flat ironing their hair, then they're looking at themselves in the mirror and that's the look they're used to. And so I think they've just, gravitated towards that habit. Yeah. So one of them embraces the curl more than the other. And the funny thing is my son, who also has curly hair, he was an athlete all the way through high school and college, and so wore a much closer buzz cut. I didn't even realize that he had curly hair until he grew it out. Like, he didn't realize his hair grew out curly. So it's really neat to see my kids having curly hair and, it being very obvious in all our family pictures that they're my kids.
Yeah.
Question about it. But no, I never, within all of the pressure that I got, including as I ran for Congress and higher office, state Senate, then the Congress, when I was the chair of the Democratic National Committee, the hairdressers would initially asked me, do you want to straighten it? Because I would get on stage, thousands of people. I said, look, I don't know if you ever saw the style I wear, like when I was on stage at the DNC, or if I do a high profile. So it's stylized curls. It's me, but more stylized. And I couldn't do that every day.
Are those straightened and then recurled, by the way? Some of them?
Yeah, most of the time they spray a strand of my hair and then curl it with a curling iron.
Okay. Yeah. It's like curly-haired people, when you see them sometimes, the weird paradox where it's like, it's still curly, but they've been manipulated in some other way with heat. Yeah.
Right. And we have the kind of coarse hair that will stay that way.
Yeah.
When a person with straight hair's hair would fall out.
The Congresswoman's decision to embrace her natural hair comes with side effects. Political opponents have concocted vicious insults related to her hair. Some people have called her an angry perm and frizilla. Adweek once called her hair ramen noodle-like. I told you we'd get back to the ramen thing eventually in this episode. It's just an absurd thing to say for so many reasons. The first being, who doesn't love ramen?
I think a lot of women pick another aspect of their looks and people zero in on it. But you and I have a very obvious trait that people can make fun of or highlight. You just have to let it roll off. These are idiots who, the only way that they can feel strong and feel like they're landing a punch is to make nasty comments about my hair. Like, that's the best they've got. I embrace who I am ethnically, biologically. It honors my ancestors, my mom, my grandparents. I have lines on both sides of my family who have curly hair. You go, across the globe and meet other, Jewish women. That is a part of who we are. I am comfortable in my own skin, comfortable in my hair. My husband fell in love with me because of my hair. As a matter of fact, he told me when we met that he loved girls with curly hair, and that's part of what attracted him to me and me to him.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, we've been married 34 years, and I'll tell you a funny story. So when there was one, actually, it's actually funny and not funny. So there was one time when I allowed, as I was a member of Congress, this is early on, I was elected when I was 37. So, I'm still in my late 30s, and a hairdresser convinced me to just be able to see what my hair would look like if he flat ironed it straight. I let them do it. It was, I looked like Congressional Barbie. It was, I did. I was wearing a hot pink suit this day. So that was also added to it. So Priya, I went to the House floor because we had votes that day, and people went berserk. Loved my male colleagues, but there were male colleagues that were like gasping in a good way. So it was complimentary.
Oh, in a good way. I didn't know if it was like, oh, why do you look so different? Okay.
Oh, no, they thought I looked completely different, but also they said, wow, you should wear your hair like that all the time. You look amazing. Not realizing that the implication was that I don't look amazing in their opinion.
It's like, it's an insult almost. Yeah.
It was kind of an insult. They didn't realize it. And then the icing insult on the cake was the Hill newspaper used to have an edition every year that was the 50 most beautiful.
I know. I remember that. Yeah.
Well, guess when I won?
Oh my God.
When I flat ironed my hair. I was chosen for that issue that year with the picture of my hair flat ironed. That is the picture they used.
How did you feel?
Pretty cruddy, because it was like, really? So, I don't meet your standard of beauty unless I have altered who I am and unless I used a lot of heat to straighten my hair out. And it's just, I also thought, okay, so beauty is so meaningless on the outside. The only thing that matters is on the inside. We all inherently know that. But it was the most superficial, so superficial and ridiculous that I don't think they even have that issue, but that edition anymore every year. But it was just really insulting.
Yeah.
And I went home that weekend after flat ironing my hair, and my kids were really little. I went into my son's room, and he was sleeping, and he was probably 6, maybe 7 or 8 years old. He opened his eyes and looked at me, then closed his eyes, and then he shot up in bed and he said, "Oh my God, what did you do?" And he did not, my husband didn't like it either. Not at all, because it wasn't his mom. It wasn't who he knew.
Yeah. So in 2012, you were photographed by Vogue, and I noticed that in the story, they described your hair as frizzy, and I noticed that they blew out your curls into this kind of old school Hollywood glam with soft waves toward the end. It's a beautiful photo. Did they tell you they were going to do that?
I was mad. When the hairdresser came to do my hair, I specifically said, please leave my hair curly. But he had other ideas. And so by the time I saw the mirror, and because we were in my office, that's how my hair looked. So I was really disappointed. As a matter of fact, there was a blog that was done that was angry about what Vogue did to me, not just my hair, but the way they photoshopped my face and gave me a chin that is not the shape of my chin. And they just made me look, they didn't make me look like I was a curly haired Jewish girl. And so I was frustrated. I really was. It is Vogue. And I also thought it was gorgeous. There was very little to complain about, but I had a little twinge of disappointment because they were beautiful, but it wasn't whatever beauty I normally have. That's just not something I should have to overcome in order to be credible. So I just set out to be credible, period.
So there was one article I read where someone said you were brushing your curls in the mirror before some interview. And I wanted to actually ask you about that because I was like, how could that be possible? I know what your hair looks like. You're not brushing your curls.
They use that term because it's a term. I don't own a hairbrush. I don't allow hairbrushes to touch my hair because I would look like a Cocker Spaniel.
Okay, I feel so validated because I was reading this article while just doing some prep for this interview, and I was like, wait, there's no way she was brushing her hair before going on TV.
I have a pick.
You were probably either using the pick or kind of like finger coiling.
Right. Or I brush my hair with my fingers. I don't even use a comb.
Same. Sometimes when I'm traveling with friends or my sister, people are like, do you have a hairbrush? I forgot to pack mine. I'm like, do you think I have a hairbrush? Let's apply some logic. Do you think I have a hairbrush? I do not have a hairbrush, no. Yeah, I used to keep a comb in the shower, and at some point I was like, this is a waste, and I feel like the comb's getting gross, kind of collecting water in the corner here, because I can just use my fingers when the conditioner is in. So, lightning round, who is your curly hair icon?
Oh, Julia Roberts, who, I think she naturally has curly hair. She has incredible hair. She's an icon for me. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Deborah Messing. I've seen her with curly hair, but it's hard to pinpoint someone who always wears their hair that way. That's a high-profile person.
If you had to bring just one hair product with you forever, everywhere you went, and this is, I feel, a very applicable question for you because you do travel so much in this role, what would it be? So this is not like a desert island kind of question where you're just like in the sun and sand all the time, right? Yeah. Like anywhere for the rest of your life, just one.
Curl cream.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for making time for us today. It has been a true honor and joy to talk to you about this.
This was really neat to be able to explore this with you so fully. That's really awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to our interview with Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. For more bonus content, subscribe to our Substack at wearespiraling.com, where we keep the conversation going between episodes. And please rate us and subscribe to this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I'm Priya Anand, and I want to hear what you're spiraling about when it comes to curly hair. Email or voice note me at priya@wearespiraling.com. This podcast was produced by Citizens of Sound, sponsored by my upcoming hair care line, Mayura. Theme music by Lapgan. Special thanks to Sarah Ferris, Annapurna Subramanian, Nico Grant, and Pooja Anand. See you next time.